What is going on, 49er fans? We have a very, very special guest. First team All ACC linebacker from Cal, Teddye Buchanan in the building. And of course, if you vibe with this channel, we're high on Teddie B around here. So super excited to have him on. We're gonna get into the process, how it's been, and learn a little bit more about the player underneath the helmet. So we're going to get into it all right now. You guys already know what to do. Drop your SDS in the chat. Smash that like button. And let's get into it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Teddye B is in the building. How are you doing, man? Thanks again so much for giving us some of your time and just how have you been throughout this whole process of getting ready for the NFL draft and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Super excited. And yeah, it's definitely an exciting time. Things have been really good. I've kind of wrapped up almost everything in terms of, All-Star game, combine and pro day. Really the only thing I have left is I'll be at the Niners local day. So,
Ooh,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
go.
So, it's just a bit of a waiting game right now, and just, if more things pop up, they pop up. But just looking forward to the draft at this point.
Man, I'm really excited to hear that. I was waiting because I know a couple of your teammates, they're going to be there at the local pro day as well, and I was like,
Yeah,
Teddy better get that invite or
yeah,
I'm going to be upset.
yeah, yeah. I don't know how much I'm not going to do any testing or anything like that. I'm kind of stand on the numbers that I already have, but it'll be a great chance to meet the coaches and other personnel.
Dude, I love to hear it.
Yeah,
Glad to see that the 49ers will get up close and personal look. Obviously, they're in the backyard. I know, covering you at Cal, I think every time I was shooting from the field, there was always a 49er scout there. So
yeah,
we know they've been watching from afar, but I kind of want to start this conversation just getting to know you a little bit better, kind of your process and how you view the game and how you've gotten to this point, because I think you've had a fascinating journey. You were born in Palo Alto, from what I've learned,
correct.
and you went to high school in San Francisco at St. Ignatius Prep. So you're a Bay kid. What is growing up in the Bay mean to you specifically?
Oh man, it's kind of everything I've known. The Bay has an extremely special place in my heart, and every chance I get to come home and be home, I feel at home. And yeah, I've lived down in Mountain View. I've moved up to San Francisco, and now I'm actually in the East Bay because I was at Cal. So got a
Yep.
chance to explore, different parts of the Bay, and yeah, I mean, just I love it here.
Dude, it would be, obviously we'll get to that point in the conversation, but if we keep the Bay kid in the Bay, that would be phenomenal. But I kind of want to start your football journey in high school. Um, in kind of learning more about you, this little nugget popped out that I absolutely love. Obviously, you're a linebacker, and in
Sure.
high school, you had like 83 tackles, 6 sacks, and a lot of really great stats from that position. And then I was like, hold on a second. This guy was their starting quarterback who
Yeah.
completed 71% of his passes, 205 for 249 for nearly 800 passing yards and 18 touchdowns. I was like, wait, you're telling me Teddye Buchanan was a quarterback? What was that process like for you? Because you started both ways at quarterback and linebacker. What was that situation like?
Yeah, so I really played quarterback all of my life until I got to college. Really, it was just kind of what I played and what I love to do, and that's kind of how my journey in football began, was playing quarterback. growing up, I also played defense, but in high school, yeah, my junior year, I was going into the year as a starter, and then I ended up fracturing my thumb in practice. So then I had to club it up, and we were playing Sacred Heart, and I really wanted to play as our big rivalry game, and I ended up clubbing up and kind of playing 7, 8 games the rest of the season with the club, and you know, my tape was good enough to get a few offers based off of that. But then going into my senior year, playing quarterback was still, what I wanted to do, and I wanted to help the team win. And yeah, I went both ways, and I'll say this to this day, I don't think I'll ever play football games as tiring as those high school games. So it definitely prepared me in a way for, college and the next level.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like typically, especially I think now with how much football has progressed, if you're a quarterback, you're a quarterback. Like, yeah, we're not going to put you at safety. I feel like it's the typical progression, but they're like, oh no, Teddy's a linebacker. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna pull it up. I came across it. I was like, Teddy, Teddy's got an arm on him. I was like, "He's got some accuracy out here." I was like, it was really cool to watch because obviously you play linebacker now. You're heading into the draft as a defender, and it's fascinating that you have the experience playing quarterback because that's who you're trying to stop. That's who you're trying to, key on and read their eyes. And so does playing the quarterback position, I think this was my favorite throws from you. Um, for playing the quarterback position, do you feel like that's helped you play linebacker?
Definitely. One, I'd say, in just terms of the mental aspect of the game going into a game, I feel like quarterback is such a high pressure position. The whole game can seem like it's on your shoulders, and in a sense, it is. So getting to experience that, and then transitioning to linebacker, obviously an extremely important position, but a different position. I got to play linebacker with a lot more motion, a lot more. I don't want to say passion, but just a lot more physicality, which was fun. I just got to let loose in a way. And I feel like that really prepared me. And then obviously there's the mental side of the game, knowing what it's like to go through reads, knowing what bothers quarterbacks, especially things like pressure and, disguising coverages. So just having that understanding and, of the nuances of the offensive side of the ball has definitely helped me as a linebacker.
Dude, I was watching these highlights. I mean, I'm like, you move. Obviously, we see the movement skills. We saw your testing numbers at the combine. It's like no surprise, but it was really cool to see you just drop back and sling it. And it kind of, again, I was like looking at this and I was like, this kind of feels like he's always around the football. I would say that when I was, covering and shooting from the sideline at Cal, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't familiar with you at all. And I just every single game, 10, 10 every time I was shooting with my camera, 10, 10, 10, just constantly around the football. Feels like every single play. So, do you feel like the ability to key on the quarterback can does it make you feel like you're playing like maybe a step ahead sometimes?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, just I feel like having an understanding of what it's like, and the schemes and everything that come with playing quarterback and playing offense have really helped me. Our OC and Mike Clark at SI San Ignatius, he came from a college program, so he kind of used a lot of those same concepts that I see going against now. So I kind of know what the quarterback is reading and how they're making their decisions. But I feel like also it's kind of just I've been playing football my whole life, so just being around the ball is kind of just something that comes naturally in a sense, and has come with just developing over. I've been playing football since I was 6, so just kind of
Yeah.
over time it just
Just comes naturally. I love to
yeah.
hear it. I kind of want to talk about your recruiting process. You ultimately ended up at UC Davis. What was that process like for you?
Yeah. So I kind of mentioned earlier, got a few offers based off that junior season of high school with the broken thumb, and my first offer was from Colorado State, and then I got a few more like San Jose State, then Sac State, and University of San Diego, more FCS schools, and I ended up at Davis. I just felt the most love from them. Felt like I'd be valued there, and it just made the most sense for me. Obviously, wasn't a big time FBS school, but they were a really good FCS team. We had a lot of successful seasons when I was there, and I mean, yeah, it was just at the time it was the best decision for me.
Well, you hit the ground running, right? Because you started as a freshman, and I think you led the team in tackles, correct?
Yeah,
As a freshman, so you were ready to go. It didn't even phase you, and I think that's kind of when you look at your transfer to Cal, and I'll get into that in a little bit, but that seems to be pretty common. Like you look like you're ready to go, getting in as a junior, boom, right out the gate. You get into UC Davis, boom, right out the gate. Obviously, you get into Cal, we'll talk about that, but do you feel like you just can acclimate to whatever your environment is, and that's going to be an easy process that can help you obviously taking that next jump into the NFL?
yeah. I mean, I feel like I keep going back to this, but growing up, I played on a bunch of different teams as a youth kid, so I was used to just because I moved or different things happened. I was used to changing teams and coming in and playing on a different level or whatever it may be. And for me, the way I look at it is kind of everything surrounding the game kind of changes as you grow older, or go from FCS to FBS, or college to the NFL, or high school to the college. But the game itself always feels the same. It always has. It's very similar to the game that I was playing when I was a little kid. So I feel like at the end of the day, just you know once you put it on between the lines, I feel like the game is what it is, and that just gives me the confidence to just go out there and play.
it it's not making it bigger than what it is, right?
Right.
Like you said, this is a game I've been playing since I was 6, and it's just kind of honing into that. Like I'm comfortable out here. It's a game I love. I'm passionate for. Don't make it bigger than what it is, right? Just go play.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you obviously had a stellar career at UC Davis. What went into you transferring to Cal? Did you kind of open up your recruitment to other places, or were you just kind of honed in like, I want to go back, I want to go play in the Bay, I want to play?
Yeah.
What's your top?
Uh, for me, it was a combination of things. Initially, I entered the portal just um, I felt like I had done everything that I wanted to do at Davis. I felt like I was a captain 2 years there. I ended up graduating from there, so I felt like I had really accomplished most of the things that I had wanted to accomplish. And for me, I really wanted to just experience what it was like to play big time college football. And the reason I chose Cal was one, I wasn't graduating actually until June, just because Davis on a quarter system and it's a little later graduation. And the way my academics worked, I really couldn't leave before that. It just wouldn't make sense. So at Cal, I got the opportunity to drive from Davis to Cal to their spring ball. I couldn't participate in the actual practices, but I got to sit in and observe and get a sense of the culture, which was super important to me. So that was a big factor in my decision. Also, my younger brother Toby, he ended up going there as a freshman, so that was a big part. We came in together to Cal, and then just I feel like also just the coaching staff, Coach Wilcox, Coach Sermon, just they've produced a lot of really great linebackers and really great defenses overall. So kind of all those things were really made it a no brainer for me to go back to the Bay and get to play in front of my family. There's just a ton of things that made sense.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know the thing about your brother being
Yeah.
there, so that is a really cool tie-in. And you know, it's funny how things come around full circle sometimes, right? You go to Cal, and the first game that you play at Cal is against UC Davis.
Yeah.
So what was that like? Obviously those guys that you're lining up across from. You've been with them, you know what they're about. What was that like being your first? You're playing Power 5 now, but you're playing against your old squad for your first game. What was that like?
Yeah, it was wild. I had played in a Davis uniform against Cal at Cal, and then now I'm playing in
Yeah.
a Cal uniform against Davis at Cal. So it was wild. I obviously a lot of questions from the media leading up to it, and it was kind of made a big deal, and I understand that, but I was trying my best just to focus on winning the game, and I could not lose that one because my buddies would never let me hear the end of it. So
You
was
transferred
happy.
to Cal for this?
Yeah, was happy to get the win, and it was a great experience. It's something that I'll look back on, and yeah, it was crazy. It was hard to describe the feeling of that.
So I think it's fascinating to look at because now with the transfer portal just being such a normal thing in college football, like before it was like taboo, right? Like if scouts or organizations, oh, this guy transferred, why did he transfer? Oh, it's probably now it's like it's almost a foregone conclusion
Yeah.
that someone might transfer, and especially in your circumstance, you were going from FCS to big time Power 5, makes a ton of sense. So now you're in this world. Obviously, you had a nice introduction to it because you played your former team. So pretty familiar. I'm assuming pretty familiar.
Yeah.
But then your second game, it's like, all right, now we're going to Auburn. We're going to SEC country. And now this is real Power 5 football. And not only on top of that, you balled out 11 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, forced fumble, quarterback hurries. Like you went crazy. I think you were even like you got all ACC honors in that situation. I want to kind of hear your thoughts kind of leading into that game, the process of it, and also too, was that a moment where you're like, yeah, I can do this, and I can do this at a really, really high level?
Definitely. It was there was a lot of games early on in that season that were circled on my calendar, and Auburn was, of course, one of them. It was, like you said, going from my old team to playing, at Auburn was exciting, and yeah, I mean, it was a lot of anticipation for me. I had never, at that time, I had never played against an SEC team. We had played only a handful of FBS games at Davis, so it was a big deal. But at the same time, like I said, once I stepped on the field, it just became football again, and yeah, things started clicking for me. Had a pretty good game, and most importantly, we got the win. And I think there was a little bit of that, I can do this, and self confidence boost just from that game. I feel like I'd be lying if I said it didn't. And yeah, it definitely was a great game to have early on in the season to propel me throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you went on to have a great season and to be named first team All ACC and again Power 5, keeping along the same themes. What did that mean to you that when your season was over, obviously ups and downs throughout the year, but to be able to recognize you made that jump from FCS to FBS, and not only did you do that, they said you were the best linebacker in the ACC, which is saying something. So, what was that like realization of like, damn, I just had a really good year?
Yeah, it felt good because it was one of my goals to, get that first team. It was actually something I never did at Davis. There was guys like Winston Reed who's on the Browns now. He's at Weaver State. He was a first team guy in my last season, and I wasn't able to ever get a first team there. So it was a big deal for me to finally get that and to not get the Big Sky first team, but to get the ACC first team was it felt good, and I was able to kind of prove myself, and um, yeah, obviously would have feel like there were some games that we left on the table, but from a personal standpoint, it was a big honor to win that award.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned leaving some games on the table. It felt like there was just a handful of plays across a few games that if it just goes a little bit differently, your record looks infinitely different, and you're probably a ranked team. Um, what was that going through that process of like we're a good team, we're capable, we can hang with these teams, and we can win these games. I think like the Miami game, you know, how is that from a personal growth perspective, kind of understanding that you've been there, you're so close, and like how do you internalize that, and what are the lessons you learn from a season like that?
Yeah, at one point I think we lost 3 games by 4 points in a row, and
Yeah,
going through that was tough in the moment, especially. But it taught me to no matter what happens, you got to prepare for the next opponent, and you can't let a win or a loss dictate what you're going to do. Say you win the game, you can't hang your hat on that. You got to prepare for the next opponent, and I just think it also just shows you the margin for error, especially in a sport like football where you're playing just only a handful of games per year. It's not like basketball where you're playing 82, or other sports where you get a bunch of chances. You only have a few chances in football, and man, it's just the margin of error is so slim. So, and I think that's just a constant and throughout all levels of football, and just understanding the importance and urgency of every single rep, every single day. I think that's, despite being disappointing, I think is a lesson that will serve me well in the future.
absolutely. We got a couple super chats in here. I want to let the people speak and ask Teddy a question. Silence says, favorite game or moment in your college football career?
Yeah, I'll leave out the Auburn game because that was fun, but I think the big game was really special.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
was fun.
yeah, we were down, and they had us in the first half, but being able to come back and being able to come back and win a game that is so important to the school and so important to so many people outside of
Right.
our building was an amazing feeling, and the fans rushing the field, it was awesome.
I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it because I was on the sideline for that game, and thinking about Nando's quote, going 98 yards, my boys, and all of that stuff. It really did feel like a special moment, especially like we talked about. It was a season, I think, defined by adversity, right? Because you guys were so close. I think you guys knew that you were a good team. You knew you could have hanged. You knew you could have beat a lot of those teams that you were playing. It was more so like, how football can be. Like sometimes we just got to get out of our own way, kind of a thing. And it's like you guys were good enough. Like you deserve to be there, and you deserve to be in that conversation. So I'm sure like that relief, especially being down in that game, and then that drive at the end. Oh, dude, it was so much fun to be there on that sideline, watching that whole game play out. Man, just takes took me back. You took me back to it, man. It was great to see that energy in that stadium. Like you mentioned, the fans, all come down onto the field. That to me is like what Cal football is about, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the that's the big game for a reason, and despite everything that happened, it's just huge for the program and huge for us as a team. And I'm for the rest of my life, I'm 1-0 against Stanford, so it's a good feeling.
I love it. I love it. Let's see. We got a couple more. But I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
Um, So I kind of want to transition a little bit more into, and I love hearing like your story. And again, I'm big on understanding the mental aspect of how players process things, because I'm sure you can, I'm sure you fully are aware that, right, the mental is a huge, huge element to being successful at the next level, right? You can be fast, strong, have all the measurables and the tools in the world, but if you don't have the drive, if you don't have the discipline, if you don't have the ability to bounce back from adversity, football is kind of a game that will chew you up and spit you out. Wouldn't you say?
I agree. So much of football is it's just the things that people just wouldn't see. It's not the game. It's the game is just kind of a product of everything that you put into it. It's a product of the preparation you do during the off season and in March, like right now in April, and then it's a product of the preparation you put in during the week leading up to it. And the game is just kind of the result of all that. And you see people making plays, but you don't see people waking up early and going to bed early and doing all the things that it takes to be great. So I think that's something that I really appreciate about football is just the process and being able to just work every single day and put all of your focus into something that is ultimately greater and just work towards something that is special and you get to play on a team and there's just so much that um, just so much work that people don't see that you as an individual can pride yourself on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it kind of, my sense of you is that you're built that way. Like, obviously, to me, your numbers at the combine were insane. I'm trying to figure out why people weren't talking about it more. I'm still like, I even did like a side by side comparison. Like your numbers, not we know football's a comparison type game, but you're an individual, you yourself. Man, I was looking at your numbers compared to Fred. I'm like, dude, like, and that's kind of what I looked at when I was watching you play. Um, you kind of reminded me of Fred, and I even have some questions in the chat from some of these guys. I'll get to both of them. But Shifty saying thoughts on potentially playing with Fred Warner, who I kind of have it as your player comp for me. Like I'm like I see a lot of, and it's again it's not the measurables. The measurables to me were like that's an hilarious coincidence because like I said, you remind me of him on the field, like how you play in between the white lines. So what would it mean to you to potentially, play with Fred Warner in that situation?
Yeah, it'd be awesome. I mean, he's been the top backer for the last few years in the league and just such a versatile and just overall great player, and just really getting to play for the Niners in general, Bay Area kid, and yeah, I mean it would be really special, and um, I'd be super blessed for the opportunity.
I'm always hesitant to ask prospects, but I'm going to ask you anyways because I know when you get to this level, it doesn't matter about who you're a fan of or whatever. Everyone's a different fan of different teams, but is any chance you were a 49er fan growing up?
Yeah, so it's actually an interesting story. My dad is from Virginia, so I actually grew up a Commanders fan. That
Oh,
was
that's right. I've seen you. I've actually seen some pictures with you wearing the Robert Griffin jerseys. I forgot
Yeah,
about that.
but I was a big fan of the Niners growing up. I was at the 2012 NFC Championship game at Candlestick against the Giants. I've
Oh,
been out, yeah, tough one.
that's a tough one.
Yeah, I've been to a ton of Niner games growing up, and I've always loved the 49ers, um, and yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say they were my number one team. I was definitely rocking the RG3 jersey and the
Yeah.
and not having a lot of success over there, but man, I mean, yeah, it would be again, it would be really special.
Hey, man. On a little bit of a tangent. Uh, I like what the Commanders are doing, dude. I like
Absolutely.
Jaden Daniels. Obviously, they got Adam Peters, who came
Yeah.
from our organization over there, instilling a lot of the same core values and principles that the 49ers have executed, with Adam Peters. Debo's over there now.
Yeah, he
So,
is.
I kind of, if I had to say, like, oh, Brad, who's your second team? I'd be like, I kind of like the Commanders right now. The
Yeah.
Commanders, they're cooking right now, and
No,
they got a lot of good stuff ahead of them.
yeah, the way I look at it is, I kind of say last year was my last season as a fan, so it was cool to see the Commanders have a really really special season in my last season as a fan. So yeah, shout out to what they did this year.
Yeah, it was great, man. It really was. Tony Caldwell said something similar. How much would it mean to you to play in red and gold and have a mentor like Fred to be able to like bounce things off of him, see his process, see how he works, see how he does it at the highest level? Because I think we're all in the kind of same boat. Like Fred is LB1 in the NFL, for how he does, what he does in the run game, but also what he does in coverage.
Yeah.
And also with Fred, leadership is huge. Like he is arguably the main leader on the team. So what would it be like to be able to look at that guy and be like, this is my mentor. Like this is a guy that I'm going to learn even more from.
Yeah, that's a super big thing for me, is just being humble and willing to learn when you come into a situation where guys have done it, and I mean obviously Fred is doing it on the highest level, so that's a huge thing for me. Just learning from the guys who have done it, and picking their brains, and trying to replicate what they do, and put my own twist on it. So um, yeah, I feel like that's definitely something that'll help me, no matter what team I end up on. But just picking the brains of guys who have done it, and are, established themselves as successful.
Have there been any linebackers that, so you've been playing linebacker since high school. So I'm always curious to know how some players treat that. Some players are just like, I just want to play ball. I'm focused on playing ball and getting better. Other players are like, I kind of watch this player, that player. Were you, where did you find yourself? Did you watch other linebackers? Were there other linebackers you looked up to, um, that maybe you were kind of pull from their game as you were developing as a linebacker in college?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking back to when I was younger. Like, I used to watch Ray Lewis. I feel like he was like the epitome of a linebacker, like a middle linebacker. Um, yeah, then there's been guys like, Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, Matt Milano, just a ton of super talented, and you know I feel like at linebacker, like, consistency is really the most important thing. Like, guys can make splash plays, but if you're not consistent as a linebacker, like, you're not gonna get in the game. So just seeing them, guys like that, do it, every single week, and just be super consistent and make plays, is something that I took away from watching just linebackers throughout the league.
You mentioned some pretty versatile linebackers, in
Yeah,
my opinion. We got a question right here. Can Teddie cover? Oh,
yeah. I
Teddie can.
mean, yeah, that can cover.
What is your take on your ability to play in coverage? Obviously, the days of the downhill linebacker, you have to be able to play in space. And I think back to one of your Shrine Bowl practice clips where you just take off running. You're probably 40 yards down the field and get a nice PBU, which reminds me again of Fred. How would you describe your coverage ability?
Yeah, I would say it's just, I feel like it's one of the strengths of my game. I feel like I have the athleticism. I'm not that strictly limited downhill in the box type backer. I feel like I'm an athlete, and I can do a variety of things, and coverage is one of them. I feel like I've got the speed to run with whoever I need to run with, and the intelligence to, understand concepts, and breaking the ball. I mean, I had 8 picks at Davis. Uh, you know, should have had another one this year that I dropped against Pitt, but it is what it is, and I just feel like I have that ability, and it's definitely a strength of my game.
Yeah, dude. And again, I think I started it by saying, like, in my opinion, you're one of the most underrated guys because I don't know what it is. I don't see people, obviously we're in that part of the year, especially for draft media content creators. We're all picking and choosing, like, oh, we really like this guy. We really think he's going to be really good. And I'm just like looking around, like, how is no one talking about Teddye? Like, um, so I don't know if it's like a process because you only played 1 year of, big time college ball. Do you feel like you're kind of flying under the radar? And if so, does that add a little bit of a chip to your shoulder?
It's kind of a mix of I don't really know what people are talking about too much, and a mix of I feel like I've always kind of flown under the radar my whole life. I mean, I didn't necessarily have those big time offers out of high school. And I was able to work my way up to the position I am now. So, if that's the case, I mean, I feel like just once I'm in the league, whatever team I'm on, I'll be able to leave a great impression and stick around and just be of value to whatever team I'm on. So I feel like that's something I'm kind of used to, and if that's the case, then it's just another chance to prove myself. So I'm not too worried about it at all.
No, I like that. Nothing from the outside is going to determine or dictate how you go about your business.
Right.
Basically, it's like, it is what it is. They're either going to feel me or they're not, and that's on me ultimately at the end of the day. So basically, just give me an opportunity, and once I get that opportunity, I'm going to rock and roll. Is how
100%.
I'm interpreting what you're
No,
saying.
100%. I agree.
I love it. Silent just dropped one in. He says, "What's your welcome to the Power Five moment?"
Oh man, I just think walking out onto that, I was on the opening kickoff against Auburn, just hearing the crowd, and they got that nice grass, and just looking around, seeing that SEC football was a special moment for me, and I kind of felt like I was doing what I was meant to do, and I'd kind of made it to a place where I felt that I should have been and where I belonged.
Dude, I love that because to me, and I don't know how you feel about this, but you kind of strike me as like, I think your best football is ahead of you. Do you feel that? Like, do you feel like you're just kind of scratching the surface of what you're really capable of?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I feel like I've had 1 year of in the FBS, but you know I feel like I'm an extremely coachable player, and just I feel like the more defenses and more great players I'm around will just push me further, and I definitely think my best football is ahead of me, and I'm super excited to just continue to show that.
Well, dude, I appreciate your time so much, dude. I
Yeah.
love, like I said, dude, I just love getting to know how you guys think, like what's inside the helmet. I think people get so focused on the measurables, the stats and the things like that. And it's like, man, what really makes players great is what's going on in here, what's going on in here. And then obviously being able to combine that with the physical tools. And that's why, to me, even getting to speak to you more, I got to sit in on a couple of your press conferences at Cal. So that was kind of like, I'm like, all right, this guy, I see the wiring. I see that, like, yeah, I see it on the field every time I'm out there, but I'm also seeing it in between the ears. And I just think that's such a huge element of the game. So I really appreciate you hopping on, man. Like all the people in the chat know, like, you're one of my favorite players heading into this class. So I'm excited to see where you go. I'm a fan regardless of where you go. If
Yes,
it's the
sir.
Commanders, hell, even if it's the Seattle Seahawks, I'm gonna be rocking with Teddy B. So I appreciate your time, man. Well, we got one super chat at the buzzer. Let me get this one in. Unique says, what does he think about linebacker Chris Borland back in the day? Does he think he matches his efforts? That's an interesting question because Borland played I think 1 year with the San Francisco 49ers, and that was like 2013, 14, 15, like somewhere in there. How old were you in like 2013, 2014?
2013, I was like 11, 12. So, young kid.
young buck. I don't know if he was breaking down 1-year linebackers in the NFL, but Chris Borland, he was a really good linebacker for us, but he only played one season and then he retired. But very just effort player, right?
Yeah.
Played
What
with
do
a
you
ton of
think?
effort. I mean, I don't think you're a comp to him, but if we're going to talk about the effort, like I mentioned, he was a nose around the ball kind of guy.
Right.
Wherever the ball was, he was. And again, that's what I think is a great trait of great linebackers. And is one of the things that I mentioned about you. Like, I wasn't even in the mindset of evaluating, even though I love to evaluate football. I was shooting. So I'm like looking through my camera, and every time the defense was up, 10, 10 in my frame, 10 in my frame, 10 making a tackle, 10 out in space. I was like, dude, this guy's all over the place. So from that perspective, I would say from that, effort, I would say yes. You have the efforts there, the tenacity, the nose for the ball, the instincts, right, which is huge.
Yeah.
And then obviously getting to know you and your work ethic, your mindset, and everything that goes into it. We're getting some more super chats. They're trying to keep you longer. Tony says, who's in headphones before the game?
Shoot, probably listen to the Weekend, Future, Travis. Let's get it going.
Yeah. I seen you walking around the pre games too with those headphones in.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. Why'd you cut the hair?
Man, I had been growing the hair out since COVID, so
It was
it was
time.
yeah, it was time. It was I was in the shower one day and I was washing it, and it was a whole process to like 30-minute process to wash, and I was like, man, it's gonna be way too hectic of a year. Like, I'm about to go train in Miami and do all this different stuff. So I was like, man, I just got to go back to this. And I've done this. I've cut my hair my whole life. I've grown it out and cut it out my whole life. So yeah.
I gotta say, I love. I got some back here
Yeah,
too.
you got some lettuce.
You thinking about bringing it back when you get into the league,
Oh
or
yeah.
are you
I
just
mean,
you kind of done with it?
no, time will tell, but definitely still on the table, growing it back out.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna try to get you out of here. They keep sending us super chats. They said, Silence says, been able to link up with any NFL Cal alum.
I mean, not as much. I've been in the Cal building actually training recently. But yeah, no one in particular. I'm sure. Once I get into the league and there's a lot of Cal guys in the league, so I'm sure it'll happen in the near future.
What game was it? The Miami game where Rodgers came out and Deshaun Jackson came
That
out,
was
and
Stanford. That was a big game.
that was the Stanford game. I think Marshawn was. I don't think he came
Yeah,
out on the field, but like he was like in the locker room.
yeah, they were doing 20 years since their season, so they came back, and Aaron Rodgers actually talked to us the night before the game, which was just super cool, and they were all Deshaun Jackson, all those guys were in the locker room and on the sidelines. So that was a cool experience.
Yeah, man. I think you were definitely a part of Cal becoming relevant. I know it's been kind of a little bit of a lull period, but I definitely think you're a part of that culture, kind of bringing that back. So again, I appreciate your time, dude. Thank you so much for hopping on and being transparent with us, being real with us, and it means a lot to me. And I'm super excited to see wherever you land, whether it's 49ers, wherever, I don't care. I'm just excited to watch your career play out. And thank you so much for your time and joining us today.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. I had a great time, and shout out, shout out you for showing the huddle highlights, the quarterback high school huddle highlights. It's a great pull, so I appreciate that.
We got one on the way out. Roll on, you Bears. Appreciate you, man. You can drop out of this one. We're just gonna kind of chop it up a little bit. with the people in the chat. So again, thank you so much, man, and hopefully we can cross paths later on down the road.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Have a
All
good
right,
one.
brother.
All right.
You too. Yes, sir. All right. That was dope. Has he had any visits or interviews with the 49ers? Yeah, he started off the show by saying that he will be at the 49ers local pro day. So I'm really excited about that. I was asking around and I was waiting to see. I'm like, why don't I see anything about Teddye being invited to the local pro day? Because something's not right there. But he will be there, which I'm excited about because again, I want the 49ers to draft Teddye. So I'm like, man, please get your eyes on this guy. Please, just please let me. And like I said, whenever I go and shoot Cal games, I always see the 49ers scouts on the sideline. So I know they're there. I know they're watching them. I know they see them. So he definitely he'll be there at the local pro day. When I was talking to him offline, he said pretty much for the most part, he's been doing like Zoom meetings. But I do know that he met with the 49ers at their pro day. And then now he's going to be at their local pro day. So, okay. Just Mike says, I've got a scout friend in the league, and he says he's a 4th round guy. I have him as a 3rd round guy, like right in that same range where Fred Warner went. That's where I got him. I'm biased, so I would take him early 3rd, even as far as late 2nd, because that's how much I believe in him as a player. Like I really think he's that good. But obviously, if you're playing the board and you're playing the value game, I would probably say 3rd, 4th. That's kind of where I've tagged him at. So cool to hear that you've got someone in the league who kind of quantifies that value, saying he's a 4th round guy. I agree that he's definitely in that range. I think PFF has him like as a 7th round prospect. I'm like, what are we doing, PFF? Like, that's crazy. I was like, this guy is not a 7th round prospect. Like, get your rankings straight. like what? 7th round pick for Teddye? It's like, dang, you guys must not watch too much Teddye, because he plays like he's going to be a future starter in the league. So shout out to Teddye, man. Like you can see, just super chill, super cool Bay Area kid. Grew up in the Bay, played college ball in the Bay. Hopefully plays his NFL ball in the Bay as well. But man, he's two good interviews back to back. We had Oluwafemi Oladejo on Monday, and we've got Teddye Buchanan today. Again, 2 players that I'm just so high on. I would love the San Francisco 49ers to bring them in. Oladejo, no 30 visits scheduled for the 49ers, and neither with Teddye, but me and Teddye were kind of talking about it before we started. Like, we're talking about Ricky Pearsall's process. The 49ers had like no interaction with Ricky Pearsall all throughout the draft process, and they drafted him in the 1st round. So just because a team isn't meeting with them, isn't having 30 visits leaked, that doesn't mean a team won't draft someone. And to me, because Teddie's been in the backyard of the 49ers, and like I mentioned, they have scouts there at every game, they probably know who this guy is. So I hope they draft him, dude. I really do. I've been seeing some weird comments like, "Oh, we don't need 2 Fred Warners." I'm like, "What? You don't need 2 Fred Warners? You don't need 2 potential top linebackers in the league?" I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? Like, you're overthinking this. Like, just way overthinking this. Oh, we don't need 2 Fred Warners. We need someone like Jerry Greenlaw." I'm like, "Oh yeah, we would love to have someone like Jerry Greenlaw." But to think Teddye and Fred can't play next to each other, I was like, "You're crazy." Like, what? You're crazy. Uh honestly, I don't know where he will go. I really don't. He strikes me as a guy that teams will be higher on than media. So the media, no one in media is talking about him. I might be the only person talking about him. Um I've looked around. I don't see anyone who does like talks about prospects for a living who's like banging the table for Teddye. So he strikes me as a guy that he's probably going to have I think he could have a late day 2 grade on, honestly. So what teams do I see fit? The Commanders. The Commanders I see as a fit. I mean, honestly, to me, any team who wants a Fred Warner style linebacker, then he'll be a fit. Um, and again, I think the fact that he also acknowledges it as well, his best football's ahead of him. Look at Fred. Look at Dre. Those guys weren't powerhouse linebackers at BYU or Arkansas, respectively. They weren't like these consensus players at all. At all. And now look at them. Fred Warner's the best linebacker in the league. No one even knew he was a linebacker. I remember scouting Fred Warner. I remember the conversations around Fred Warner coming out of BYU. Oh, is he a safety? Is he a nickel? Is he an edge? Is he a linebacker? Is he an outside? Is he an outside linebacker in a 3-4? No one knew what Fred Warner was. They had no idea how to quantify him, where to put him, how to evaluate him. So that's the thing. It's like just because the consensus doesn't buy in, doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. So good. Let people sleep on Teddye B, and hopefully the 49ers can snatch him up. And if you want to think about a team, like I said, for me, the Fred Warner comp came naturally. It just happened because I was just watching him. I was just watching him play. I'm like, dude, this dude plays like Fred. I was like, and I can't even think of a linebacker that I flipped on the tape of and been like, oh, that looks like Fred. That just doesn't happen. You guys know I like to scout. You guys know I like to watch film. You guys know I like to dive into these prospects. There aren't linebackers where I flip on the tape. I'm like, oh, that's Fred. So when I say that Teddye reminds me of Fred in play style, immeasurable, because I mean it. Like I'm not thinking of, I don't. So to me, the fact that he even strikes me and resembles Fred to me, I think is a great thing. So, because obviously I've watched a lot of Fred Warner play football. I scouted Fred Warner coming out of BYU. I was a fan of Fred Warner coming out of BYU. I mocked Fred Warner to the 49ers out of BYU. I didn't think I would be lying to you if I said I was banging the table saying Fred Warner was going to be the best linebacker in the league. That would be a lie, but I did like Fred coming out, and I did think he would translate well all day. So Fred Warner to me is the standard right now, and if you got a guy who resembles that, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Don't sleep on him. Hopefully the 49ers can snag him. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But shout out to all you guys again. Great questions. Appreciate everyone sending the super chats. Great vibes in the chat as always. Again, I say it every single time, but it's not just me doing the interview. You guys, as the community, make the interview also great. It's not just me asking the questions, it's the way you guys engage, interact, and comment. You also help make the guest feel comfortable. So, always, I mean, when it comes to interviews, I don't know. I don't watch a lot of other channels and their interviews, but when I can speak to what you guys do, I mean, I don't know if there's a better community when it comes to how you guys engage with the interviewee interviewee. So I appreciate that. I do. Um, I really, really do. You guys are awesome. Can I get Cam Scattaboo? I could shoot my shot. No guarantees. He does follow me on Instagram, so I can shoot my shot. We'll we'll see. I'll shoot. I'll see what happens. So, what other prospects like? I need to reach out to a couple more. I think these are pretty fun. I think it's a nice shift of gears, just talking directly about the San Francisco 49ers all the time. Um, so what other prospects? Obviously, keep in mind the big names are definitely harder to get, but we can do our due diligence and see what we can get. I've heard so many people have asked me about this guy that I might need to. I might need to bring him on. Dude, one guy made a reel about him, and I get asked about him constantly. Uh, I don't know. So maybe we'll see what happens. Noel Williams, the other All ACC, he was All American actually at Cal. Fannin, yeah. Ooh, I could maybe get Gunnar Helm. We have I think we have a joint connection. I know his trainer. Are you guys trolling? Honestly, I've actually thought about this. I'm not going to lie. I've thought about reaching out to either Jake or McKivitz and just bring them on because they are getting so much hate right now from this fan base. And I listen, I'll be the first to tell you that I don't think Jake had his best year last year. I really don't. But I mean, the way people are going in on these guys right now, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I almost want to have him on the channel. But I don't know. That probably caused some chaos at this point. Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord is another guy that is getting no pre-draft hype. No pre-draft hype, which I guess is fine. People probably have a bad taste in their mouth from his days at OSU. But we'll see. We'll see. But shout out Teddye, man. Shout out Teddye, real one. Super low key, chill vibes. Appreciate him coming on the channel and just talking ball with us. So thank you guys again for your contributions. And we'll see who else we can get. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll see y'all tomorrow. All right. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see